everyone, welcome to my BookTube channel. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. I have a confession to make. My guilty pleasure television show is in fact The Bachelor, and in the summer months, Bachelor in Paradise. While they say the first step in recovery is admitting you have a problem, I very much enjoy this program and I refuse to stop watching it. I have been watching this show on and off for almost 10 years now. Wow. I was way too young to watch the show when it first premiered, but I became a fan later when I was in 8th or 9th grade. Ever since, it has been an interesting ride. Now that I'm older and I am earning my PhD, I have been analyzing the Bachelor franchise for several academic projects. In order to analyze Bachelor Nation, I read the memoirs from the former Bachelor contestants. Today I will be talking to you about 4 of them. This is going to be interesting. To kick off my Bachelor video, I'm going to start with Emily Maynard Johnson's book. And for those of you who don't know, she is married now, so that is not a typo. And AJ Gregory helped her write this book. To refresh your memories, Emily Maynard won Brad Womack's heart on season 15 of The Bachelor. Later, she would go on to become the Bachelorette herself. Emily Maynard was the single mother everyone loved and was rooting for. This almost doesn't even need to be said, but if you were going to read her book, I feel as if you need to be a fan of hers. Emily Maynard Johnson's book is more so about her personal experiences than being a part of the Bachelor franchise. Since I've been doing research on this as a project, I can tell you a lot of the information she delivers about the show can be found elsewhere. On the flip side, if you don't want to go through a dozen different websites, it does provide a nice overview. Emily reiterates a lot of what she said previously during the show, as well as her After the Final Rose interview both times. She does provide some more details about her relationships though. She doesn't give too many specifics about why these relationships didn't pan out, but she does give just enough to provide a satisfactory answer for those of you who are curious. Her book is definitely not a behind-the-scenes, exclusive, in-depth details about how the Bachelor franchise works. It is definitely more memoir-based. If you are someone who really wanted to see Emily Maynard be successful in her quest for love, then you will enjoy this book. But if you're hoping for some gossipy details, you're not going to find those with her. Emily herself is very religious, so she does mention her quest to find God several times. So if you are someone who is not religious or does not want to read about religion, that is something for you to keep in mind before you purchase this book. Her religion does not overtake the entire book, however. Emily Maynard's book is from her first love and heartbreak to her happily ever after. It is a narrative. Andi Dorfman's book, however, is not sequential. Andi Dorfman bounces around quite a bit. Personally, I like things to be chronological. It is easier to follow, and unless there's a real reason to have that back and forth element, I'm not going to be drawn to that. It goes from her dealing with her breakup with her fiance, to her audition to The Bachelor, to dealing with the breakup, to being on The Bachelorette. It goes back and forth a lot. I prefer things to be sequential, so having it go out of order was a little frustrating at times. But that being said, it wasn't as if it was more difficult to follow, it was just a different way of reading her book. I think her book was not chronological to make it different from former memoirs that other contestants have produced over the years. If you've ever had a sad, traumatizing breakup, her book will probably speak to you on that level. If you don't want to read about someone's breakup and their heartache, it will probably get very frustrating after a certain point. There is one thing in particular that I need to address. If you watched Andi Dorfman on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, you know exactly who she is referring to. Which comes back around to, you will probably only be reading this book if you know who she is. So there is no point in referring to these men by numbers. You can't make the claim it's for privacy purposes because you know exactly who she is referring to. You can figure this out. I read the book. I knew exactly who was what number. While I understand it can be freeing to refer to the men as numbers so that she does not have to relive the pain of those breakups, it is kind of dehumanizing to them. You already know exactly who she is referring to, so the numbers are more for her sake than for you as the reader. I was really bothered by her calling the men by numbers. That was something that was very difficult for me to overcome with this read. I look at it from a personal perspective because if I was just another number to someone, I would be really devastated by that fact. That in turn made it really difficult for me to think of her as the protagonist of this book. While I was really bothered by the numbers, if you do not find that troubling, you won't mind the book. Next up we have Lowe, who wrote the book alongside Nancy French. Sean was on her season of The Bachelorette. I really enjoyed Lowe's book. I was so surprised by how well done it was. Sean's book starts out with about a 50-page brief biography of how he became the person who he is and why he eventually went on the show. I think I really enjoyed this book because it was almost a play-by-play breakdown of his time on The Bachelorette and The Bachelor, He gives a lot of behind the scene details, and I genuinely mean a lot. These sticky notes are all insights into the Bachelor Nation that I was not able to find anywhere else. The producers of the show would ask Sean what he wanted to talk to Emily about before the actual date. This way the producers could determine when he should bring this up to Emily. The day portion of the date is meant to be fun and uplifting and bubbly, whereas the evening portion is meant to have dramatic purposes. So if he wanted to bring up something dramatic, he needed to save it for the very end. Sean also addressed some of the editing decisions. The first kiss the viewers saw between Emily and Sean was not actually their first kiss. Sean kissed Emily the previous day, but that was not nearly as romantic as the second kiss, so the producers decided to portray that as their first kiss. In his book, Sean is extremely honest. Sometimes he's honest to the point where it doesn't paint him in the best of lights. But at the same time, I really appreciate the fact he is so candid about his experiences. Sean even said he went on The Bachelorette to have an adventure. He did not go on the show to find true love. And if you have ever seen the show, that is usually something the contestants never say. You weren't there for the right reasons. Sean went on to give very detailed explanations for the rest of his time on The Bachelorette. My absolute favorite part of this book was when he said he was kidnapped. The producers had Sean drive around in the back of the limo for over an hour, and the hotel was only 10 minutes away. They kept driving him around in the hopes that he would say something dramatic about his rejection, which, when you really think about it, is truly terrible. If you would like to learn more about how the show is actually created, his book is perfect. And I say perfect because that is the word Emily Maynard used for Sean a lot. Now it is time to talk about everyone's favorite villain. Courtney Robertson wrote her book with Baer. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed reading her book. She consistently made me laugh. Yes, there are moments that you can consider inappropriate, but she was very honest, so in a weird way you have to give her credit for being willing to put those things in print. She removed any element of privacy, and the reader will not have any lingering questions about her time on The Bachelor. She tells you everything you could possibly ever want to know, and then some. Some of which I didn't need to know, but yeah. She also gives a lot of details about who she was before she went on The Bachelor. Some of it was, shall we say, explicit. But since a lot of media coverage around Courtney had to do with her previous dating history, it made sense. It wasn't as if she decided to randomly reference her celebrity dating past. The media did that for her, and by writing about it, she's answering any questions people may have had. I didn't really have any lingering questions about her that I needed answered. I picked up her book because I was doing research for my project, and in all honesty, I found her book really helpful. Since Courtney was portrayed as the villain for her Bachelor season, she gives a lot of details about the process. And one of the reasons why I don't mind her potentially explicit or inappropriate references is because she's detailed about everything, and I mean everything. It's not as if she's vague about one thing and super specific about another, she's just detailed. Courtney was more aware of the editing process because of how she was portrayed, which in turn helped me as the researcher. Courtney's book was written in a narrative format. You have her biographical elements, her time on The Bachelor, and eventual breakup with Ben. Courtney also had little random interludes to give you moments of levity while you're reading. It was a nice way to break up the text. That is my quick overview for 4 Bachelor memoirs. If you are a fellow Bachelor fan, make sure you tell me down below so I know I am not the only one. I don't want to be the only booktuber watching The Bachelor. And if you've read any of these books, make sure you tell me your thoughts on them. Thank you so much for watching. I post a new BookTube video every Friday, so make sure you hit that subscribe button down below in the corner. Is it here? Here? I know it's in one of the corners. And fellow BookTuber Bachelor fans, be sure to give this a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching and have an amazing reading day. And I hope you enjoy all the Bachelor love.